What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including the shocking spoiler for the Randy Orton vs Fiend Mania match, the Boogeyman messages Vince McMahon, WWE Superstars in quarantine, is WWE snubbing the Hardy Boys, Will Ospreay calls out CM Punk, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now let's hit the intro and get straight into the first story. Our first story looks at WWE Superstars in quarantine. Our wrestling fans and wrestlers alike know that WrestleMania is the WWE's biggest show of the year, so is it any surprise that WWE Superstars would quarantine to reduce the risk of a positive COVID-19 result, thus missing the company's flagship pay-per-view? Obviously, this is a no-brainer, as Superstars want the traditionally bigger WrestleMania paycheck, as well as the chance to impress WWE higher-ups with a WrestleMania moment. What may surprise you is that the WWE isn't requiring its superstars to quarantine. Dave Meltzer is reporting there was no mandate put down by the company. There are people who are quarantining themselves by choice this week because nobody wants to test positive. This WWE policy is mind-boggling considering the many COVID strains circulating, ones which are particularly infectious and which could lead to several WWE matches being scrapped. Then again, the WWE's COVID-19 precautions, some would argue its lack of precautions, have been criticized ever since the start of the pandemic. Next up, the shocking spoiler for the Fiend vs Randy Orton match. Now, the Fiend and Randy Orton are ready to face off at WrestleMania 37, and so far it appears the two will do so in a regular match as opposed to a gimmick match, although this could change after tonight's Raw. But now the Dirty Sheep Patreon account is reporting that the match is going to be a squash match, with the Fiend destroying Randy Orton. If so, this will be an anticlimactic way to end the feud between Orton and the Fiend, and likely to disappoint fans who were expecting to see a cinematic match between the two. While the case can be made that most fans expect the Fiend to go over against Orton, another stipulation match, such as the TLC's Firefly Funhouse Inferno match, could be a good way to create the illusion that Orton can beat the Fiend. If the Fiend squashes Orton, it will become one of the worst resolutions to a feud in a long time. Do you think the WWE will air a stipulation match or cinematic match for the Orton vs Fiend, or is it just going to stay as a regular match? Next up, a Mania match has been scrapped. After you've been following the news, you know that Vince McMahon made a number of changes to this year's WrestleMania, and reportedly one of them could have been a big match for former Retribution leader Mustafa Ali. For a few weeks, it looked like the WWE was going to revisit Mustafa's frustration over Kofi Kingston getting his spot at the 2019 Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, a spot which led to Kofi Mania and Kingston winning the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 35. In an interview with Metro's Alistair McGeorge, Mustafa announced that at one point it looked like he'd get a Mania match with the Dreadlock Dynamo. The story was presented, and I really thought that was the direction we might be going for this year's WrestleMania. Again, like I said, things change and other things take priority sometimes. We almost got to it, so I will try to get it again. There's so much real emotion that can just bring up and bring out in promos leading to that match. When we do it, I hope we're allowed to do it right because I feel like it'll be one hell of a story. It sure would, and it would be a terrific way to take Mustafa Ali to the next level, something his fans have been waiting for ever since he returned from injury. Unfortunately, his role as Retribution's leader fizzled out, much like the Retribution storyline. Mustafa will compete in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on the 9th April SmackDown, while Kingston and Xavier Woods will defend the Raw Tag Team Championship against AJ Styles and Omos on night 1 of WrestleMania this Saturday. Mustafa's exclusion from WrestleMania speaks volumes as to how the WWE perceives him in the WWE hierarchy, and it's possible he could be on his way out of the WWE if Vince McMahon decides to make any further roster cuts after WrestleMania. Next up, is the WWE snubbing the Hardy Boys? The Hardys' surprise return at WrestleMania 33 generated one of the biggest pops in WrestleMania history, so why wasn't it included on the recent list of top 10 crowd reactions at WWE's flagship pay-per-view? Well, according to Matt Hardy, there's only one reason. Matt tweeted, "For everyone who's tweeted me, our WrestleMania 33 return isn't included because now I'm at AEW. I always felt it was a damaging practice to selectively revise history with die-hard fans. You tell me, should our WrestleMania 33 return be on this list?" Now, while the WWE is known for its pettiness, its top 10 list contains some major moments that arguably eclipsed the Hardys' 2017 return. Here are the top 3. Kingston winning the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 35, The Rock and Hulk Hogan's face-off at WrestleMania 18, and number 1, Daniel Bryan wins the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 30. If the WWE is omitting the moment just to snub the Hardys, it's petty, but not surprising. Do you think they intentionally did this? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, a New Japan champion calls out CM Punk. Is CM Punk ever going to return to wrestling? Well, that's the question fans have been asking ever since Punk stepped away from UFC. Now, newly crowned IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Will Ospreay has a message for Punk. Before I was the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, a man who sparked a whole industry of getting the wrestling world interested in named CM Punk was interested in facing Will Ospreay. Now, the 27-year-old English wrestler defeated Kota Ibushi at New Japan Pro Wrestling's Sakura Genesis show, and reportedly also challenged Drew McIntyre to a match. You may recall Punk mentioned Ospreay's name as one of the handful of wrestlers he would be interested in facing if he ever stepped out of retirement. But now Ospreay is saying Punk has even more motivation to do battle. Well, now I have the biggest prize in pro wrestling, so if you're really wanting to prove yourself that you're the best in the world, come over to here and come and take this. While Punk has often teased a return, he's made it clear that it would have to be on his specific terms, and so far there's been no sign of him coming back. AEW and the WWE seem to be interested in signing Punk, but so far nothing has happened. Working in New Japan might be seen as a viable option by Punk, but it's unclear how much money he would want and whether New Japan would actually pay it. Could Ospreay's challenge be the motivation Punk needs to return? And if he ever does step back into the ring, will it be for one night only or for an extended run? Next up, the Boogeyman wants a WWE comeback. A former WWE superstar, the Boogeyman, aka Martin Wright, was last seen on the 4th January Legends Night edition of Raw, and it appears he'd like another opportunity to wrestle. The 56-year-old wrestler, known for his fondness for worms, tweeted a video of himself training with the message, "Give me the ball, Vince." The Boogeyman is a type of comedy character who can still be used at this point in his career from time to time, although whether the WWE needs him on a full-time basis is another question. Would you guys like to see the Boogeyman return to the WWE and possibly have a feud with a Fiend? Let us know in the comments down below. And finally, WWE Hall of Fame celebrity induction has been confirmed. And last but not least, the WWE has confirmed that heavy metal madman Ozzy Osbourne is being inducted into the celebrity wing of its Hall of Fame. Osbourne, who famously served as the British Bulldogs cornerman at WrestleMania 2, performed at a 2007 episode of SmackDown and guest hosted Raw in 2009, will make an appearance at the ceremony via video. Do you guys plan on watching this year's Hall of Fame show? And if so, which induction are you looking forward to the most? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.